Shalom. While I have been quietly following the news, I thought it might be best to avoid discussing my thoughts on our most recent challenge of chaos and devastation around our country and across the world. Because as you know, I strive to convey only messages of hope, joy, and optimism. However, after my conversation with our new Chief of Police, Joe Tracy, in which he mentioned a planned protest in our town this weekend, I recall the teaching of the holy Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, founder of the Hasidic movement, that an integral part of our character development is to find a lesson from everything we hear and see, which seems to imply that even within chaos, we must endeavor to find order and balance. Without addressing the possible political agenda or the segments of unpeaceful protesters, ultimately, during this past week, in some way, each and every one of us has been affected by the death of one individual, not some famous leader or academic scholar. In fact, most of America had never even heard his name before. But that is exactly the point. The whole world has been turned over as a result of the death of a single individual. Why? Because we value the sanctity of life. Fascinatingly, while every other creature was created with a partner, it was only man who was created and placed into this world alone, to teach us that every human being, regardless of race, culture, or status, is equivalent to an entire world and has the fullest capacity to rise and attain great achievements, for we believe every life has sanctity and value. In fact, this is the very reason we closed places of worship, schools, and businesses in our country and in countries all over the world, because we value every individual life. The famous Rabbi Yisrael Salanta once said, "When I was a young man, I wanted to change the world. But I found it was difficult to change the world, so I tried to change my country. When I found I couldn't change my country, I began to focus on my town. However, I soon discovered that I couldn't change the town. And so, as I grew older, I tried to change my family. Now, as an old man, I realize the only thing I can change is myself. But I've come to recognize that if long ago I had started with myself, then I could have made an impact on my family. And my family and I could have made an impact on our town. And that in turn could have changed the country. And together we could have changed the world." So if we want to bring order to the world, we need to begin with ourselves. We need to recognize our own unique value and qualities and work on raising ourselves, becoming better partners, better parents, and better friends. This is the theme of our Torah portion, Naso, which means to raise. Our Torah portion discusses the responsibility of the sons of Levi to raise and carry the sanctuary and its vessels during the journeys of our ancestors through the wilderness. Earlier this week, I was reading one of the Rebbe's talks from 1972, in which he discusses how the responsibilities of the sons of Levi teach us about the tools we are given for character refinement, so that we can raise our inner sanctuary, the unique value of our soul, and fulfill our unique mission in this world. Each of the children of Levi had a unique task. It was the task of the sons of Gershon to carry the curtains, and it was the task of the sons of Kahat to carry the vessels. These two distinct tasks are represented by the famous teaching of King David, Sur meira va'asei tov. Turn away from bad and do that which is good. You see, much like the walls of our home keep the heat and cold weather out and protect us from harm, in building and developing our character, the first thing we need to do is to carry curtains. We need to train ourselves to keep our negative behaviors and habits off our property and out of our inner sanctuary. The second step is to raise the vessels, such as the ark, the table, and the candelabra. To beautify our unique character, we need to take advantage of our talents and strengths to study, pray, and perform acts of goodness and kindness. Indeed, if we want to rebuild and raise the world, if we want to rebuild and raise our country, if we want to rebuild and raise our community, we need to start by recognizing and raising our own self-value. And when we do, we will affect everyone around us, bringing salvation to the world. They say the most profound darkness comes just before dawn. In the Egyptian exile, after reaching the lowest depths of oppression, when the long night of exile seemed the darkest, it was at that moment that deliverance and renewal began. Such was the case in each subsequent exile. In life, when the wheel of fortune seems to have reached the lowest point, when it appears that a situation is beyond hope, it is at this moment that we remember that the darkest hour of exile comes moments before redemption. May the moment of light, peace, and healing be now with the coming of Mashiach. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.